back to Lego by the Book. Today I'm going to be building two of the expansions for the castles. These two I'm going with first because they are ones that are kind of necessary to truly be able to expand your castle. They also are particularly neat because they come with siege engines. One came with a battering ram, one came with a siege tower, and that's what the sets were actually named after. And that's just the coolest idea, in my opinion, that LEGO did that. That not only did you get a siege engine, you also got an expansion to your castle. And since the siege engines would be the expansions you were most likely to get, those are the expansions that are the necessary ones. And I'll go into what I mean by necessary a little bit later. But we're going to start with set number 6061, the Siege Tower. Let's do this. Alright, and there is the wall section. It is very just simple, straightforward little section. Has, I don't know what this is supposed to be, a table or something. A couple of weapon holders, and then two sections of wall, just two wall sections, or two wall panels each, so it's a total of 20 bricks wide, but it's hinged, and that is what makes it vital to being able to expand the castles properly. Because in order to have the castles connect all the way into a solid wall again, when you open them up in the back, at least one of the expansion sections has to be hinged. And we'll see that later when I go to do the video on actually expanding them all. So, that is the wall section. Let's build the siege engine. And so here is the siege tower, and it actually had a functioning drawbridge sort of thing, and which actually had a winch that raised and lowered it. The hinge is supposed to be loose, but mine are worn and old and don't fall on their own anymore, so you don't need the winch. But it had one, which is just a neat design. And it's got little arms so the men can push it towards the wall. And it's actually very robustly built. It actually has supports that are entirely, I mean, arguably unnecessary, but definitely add, I think, just style and dimension to it. It is a bit monochromatic, but I mean, it didn't even have any banners or anything, or shields or anything to really break it up, except for the black and the brown of the wheels. But it was a really nice little siege engine, very stoutly built. The set also came with a ladder for, you know, laying siege to the walls. So here's your section of wall. Came with a knight, 3 men. I've only decorated with 2, and oddly enough, it was once again the cross axemen instead of any particular faction, which I thought was kind of interesting. I guess just so that you could put them on whichever side you felt like, rather than ending up with way too many of one kind and not enough of another. But the siege bridge is in fact the right height to be able to go across and attack any of the castles. They all have the same size walls because they're all obviously designed to be interlocking. So yeah, you now had everything you needed to be able to lay siege to your castle and the ability to make your castle a little bigger. So I think that's pretty cool. Okay, on to the next set, which is set number 6062, which is the Battering Ram. Alright, this time the instructions had us build the siege engine first, and as you can see, it is both a siege tower and a battering ram. So it has a functioning ram that can be used to ram down a door, which, since this set has a door, which we'll get to, that's useful, but it also has a siege tower. This is the same height as any of the wall sections, so it could be used as a siege tower as well as a ram, which is pretty groovy. It came with the same generic cross axe men for the siege tower side. I believe there were then also men inside the castle, yes, which we will get to. So, on to the castle section. Alright, so here is the wall section, and this was the expansion that I always thought looked the coolest when I was a kid, because it has an additional tower and a rounded tower. It actually has a door, and it is hinged in 2 places, which allows for a lot more articulation, allows you to expand things better. And once again, the hinge is necessary to be able to properly expand a castle. And this one was clearly meant to be one of the Black Falcon castles. It's got their colors, it's got their men. And while I have been claiming that the crossed axe guys are neutral, they are clearly meant to be Crusaders because they always have the Crusader flags and the Crusader colors, and everything else about them is similar to the Crusaders. So I would argue they are actually now supposed to be Crusaders, but I also thought that they could have easily been a third neutral faction. And the battering ram is, of course, clearly meant to come up to the door and batter the door open, and then men can get in through the bottom, and the men could go across on the top, on the siege plank, and all of that. So really, really cool expansion to any castle. You could use this to expand any castle, but the only castle that had the angled towers was the Black Falcon Fortress, and so it would definitely fit them better. But we will get into that once we've finished up all of the other expansion sets. We will then go into how they actually can be added and how they look and all of that. So stay tuned. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, ideas, corrections, put them in the comment section below, and thank you for watching.